Hello class, we now come to lecture 2 and I'd like to continue on describing the Dravidians, which is one of the cultures of course that formulated and amalgamated into Hinduism as we know it. So at this point I'd like to recommend two books before we describe this that I have found very helpful over the years. This is a textbook that was written in the 1970s and it still remains as one of the best summaries of Hinduism. You should be able to find it for a few bucks used online. So look for this entire series of the religious life of men. In this case, Hopkins is the one that wrote this specific one. They do quite a phenomenal job on summarizing, being very concise, but yet very relevant. And as well as you know, and I already mentioned in my previous lectures, religion is not the kind of thing that you have breakthroughs that will revolutionize the field ordinarily. So even though it was written almost 5 decades ago, I have revisited it and used it as a source, and I found it very helpful in the way in which things are put together there. And then the other one that I highly recommend will be the Bhagavad Gita. I chose this specific edition because it has a commentary to each chapter that will be very helpful to you, describing the basic Hindu concepts and also the context and what is being said on the chapter. And the Bhagavad Gita, as I said before, it is the most commented Hindu text. It's a small little book, but yet it encapsulates what Hinduism is. So I will give it some time in future lectures, maybe 2 or 3 lectures to the book, to describe it to you and to give you a better sense of what you'll find in it. It is the entire worldview of Hinduism expressed in it. So we'll get to that when we get into the Vedic religion of Hinduism. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and proceed and describe to you the caste system. So I put an image of Purusa in the ordinary sense, and what you have there is a human being that is sitting in the lotus position with one foot down, and he has multiple heads, and that theme of multiple heads will be constant through Hinduism to represent the wholeness or fullness or omniscient and omnipresence. So that's a way in which you can speak of seeing in all directions and being aware of all that comes to pass. And so what happened in this Dravidian ideal is that Purusha is cut up in different parts, and then some of the body parts are used to form other beings, and these ones distinctively are then going to be assigned to specific human beings that are going to follow under each distinct caste in the caste system. And so those, and I'll begin at the top, as those who are the most revere and are at the top of the entire hierarchy of the caste system. And so what you have on the top is going to be what's called the Brahmins, and that is going to be distinct from Brahman. Brahman is going to be the ultimate reality, which is the self, the infinite self. And I'll distinguish those as we go along. But the Brahmins are going to be the priests. They are the people that are uniquely gifted the gifts of study of the Vedas. So they have 6 responsibilities, and I place them right next to the image. They have written there. Teaching is going to be part of that. Studying will begin at a very early age, so you'll be about 7 years old, and your parents will give you up to a guru, and your guru, of course, it means a teacher, a religious teacher, and what you're going to be encountering is as a Brahmin is you will begin to study the Vedas. And this is a study that was orally transmitted in the past, and then it was later codified in the 1700s, so not too long ago. But this knowledge was a special kind, and only the Brahmins have access to it, and they are the highest point in the reincarnation process. So this is a male. This is a male who has reincarnated through each one of the other reincarnations and castes, and finds himself now at the highest and purest expression of the spiritual life. So what they do is that they provide sacrifices, and I'll explain the sacrifice and what they mean. and they sacrifice for others, and then they receive gifts. Now, you may look at it in a very secular and skeptical way and say, oh, great, what a great deed to be able to receive gifts. I want to do one of those one of these days, and just that will be my job. But no, they are holy people that devote themselves to the study of the Vedas, and receiving gifts is helping you as a lower class person be able to do a good deed. So the fact that they accept your gifts is an act of kindness and an act of condescension. They're coming down to your unworthy, unholy ways, and then they are including you into it by helping them to continue in their callings. So that is the Brahmins. It is the last stage of reincarnation, and you have to be born in this caste system. There is no choices. And I will read some of the laws of Manu when we get to closer to the that section of the class, and you'll see how stringent these are. I mean, you cannot deviate from them. They are very much very punitive if you happen to miss and to violate these laws. For example, the only person that is allowed to listen to the Vedas is the Brahmins, period. Nobody else, and they have to all be male. And if a let's say a Sudra, a servant, or an untouchable happens to hear that the Vedas were being recited in an instruction, then they themselves get melted lead put through their ears. So pretty much the death penalty. It would destroy you, and it kills you. So that was the punishment. So you may say, wow, that is quite extreme. But remember, this is the revelation of the divine being given to those who have ears to hear and who have the spiritual maturity to teach it to others, and should not be given to others. So it is safeguarded in this way. So these laws are very much punitive in this case, and they will continue in effect for the most of the history of Hinduism, including today, for those who are practicing Hinduism. Then you have what's called the Kshatriyas. Now it has a K on it, so you can pronounce it Kshatriyas or Kshatriyas. I am inclined to do the latter. And the Kshatriyas come, of course, from the arm. So the mouth is the Brahmins. The arms is going to be, of course, representing strength and justice, and that is going to be the warriors, the Kshatriyas. And they are going to be the ones that keep peace. They are the ones that are in charge of law and order. They are the ones that become part of the army, and what they do is that they maintain peace and order. Society is able to function because this caste is going to keep everybody in check, and in doing so, then keeps the social and cosmic order in line. What they do is that they also regulate and help the Vaishyas regulate, for example, counterfeiting and weights and measures. So the Kshatriyas, you're born in a Kshatriya caste, you have to fight. You say, well, I'm not of the temperament that I like to fight. I like to be friends with people. I like to, he said, no, this is something that we're going to have to work through as we go through this course, is in Hinduism, this is a divinely appointed obligation that you have, and you're born in the caste because you are deserving because of your karma. And your karma is not a negative thing or a positive thing. It could be either one of them. So the fact that you're born a Kshatriya will be a great thing. Imagine if you were a Vaishya before, and now you're a Kshatriya. You have a step up. You say, yeah, but I don't like warfare. So no, at that point you have to go beyond what you like and dislike, and beyond the temporality and your wishes and desires, to what is your obligation, and not be able to deviate from that. You say, well, but how about if I'm a Kshatriya and I'm really good at business? I'm just a great negotiator. I'm just, the art of the deal is just my natural inclination. I just know how to bargain for things. Manu is going to say that it is better for you to be a miserable and incompetent Kshatriya than for you to be an excellent Vaishya. So it is better for you to perform your duties in your caste, even though you may fail at it, then for you to excel at doing the duties of another caste that doesn't belong to you. So that's some of the limitation that you have there. You say, well, what can I just make up my mind? Say, well, if that is what you do, you're fighting against a cosmic system that is going to come back and bring its natural and inherent consequences for violating it. So if you want to violate the caste system, sure, but just know that the consequences could be long lasting and they could be quite painful. So that is the Kshatriyas. For example, the Buddha Gautama Siddhartha is going to be born a Kshatriya, and he is going to be hoped by his father and guided to become a Kshatriya and religious leader. Let me see. Now we have the third caste, which is the Vaishyas, and the Vaishyas are of course, your blue collar worker, trading, dealing with weights and measures, of course, being the middleman, and they are the ones that assess the value of things. So the Hindus did not have what's called central planning in economics, and that means some commissar out there that just determines that this is the price of milk and it shall never be changed, and anybody that changes that is acting contrary to the decree of the king. And no, the Vaishya is a trader or a merchant, and he abides by the laws of supply and demand, and he determines those things, but he's a blue collar worker. So if that is what you're born to do, then do that. And then you have the Sudras. Now the Sudras are going to be servants, and they are going to be servants to the Brahmins. So the Brahmin is able to set aside time to be able to do his practices and sacrifices, and because somebody else is taking care of the daily necessities of life, and those are the Sudras. And what they do is that they serve not only the Brahmins but others, and they are marked by their humility. They are to be servants, and they humble themselves before others. And so those are the four caste system officially. Then later on came what's called the untouchables, and the untouchables is not a caste. This is not part of the caste system. It is they are outcast. They are outside of that. They have not yet partaken into the system. They are people that engage in unclean activities. It is estimated that today in India there is about 300 million untouchables. Now, if you want to imagine what that looks like and how horrible that is, you guys are well acquainted with the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement in the United States. Or imagine the slaves back in the day, 150 years or more, suffering all sorts of iniquity and outcasts, and the separate by equal idea. And the untouchables are going to be the people that engage in activities that involve death or waste. So they are the ones that are in charge of cleaning toilets and latrines. They are the ones that clean the streets. They are the ones that cut hair. So if you're a hairstylist, I'm sorry, but by cutting hair, you're inflicting death. And I say, I know that hair is dead, but for the Hindu, that was a living thing that was growing and it gets cut, and because it brings about death. Now you are unclean, and so the untouchables are so outcast that they have to do their work in the middle of the night, when the rest of the population is in bed, and they will not come into contact with them. Now, if you happen to be walking in a street and then and you're an untouchable, your responsibility is not just to get out of the way, as if as it used to be practiced in regards to slavery and racism in the past. That is not sufficient. You have to warn the people ahead of time that they are approaching untouchable. So you have to pretty much say, untouchable, untouchable. And then the people will not dare walk by you because you will pollute the air that they breathe. And so I hope that gives you a sense of how harsh and consequential this is. And this is an ongoing practice in many parts of India still. So at this point, I will pause, and we're going to go and describe the Aryans in our next lecture. And so review what you have there regarding the caste system, and I'll explain further what the implications are. Bye.